What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Sports. It's been a bit since we did a live stream. Definitely been a little bit here. And yeah, very crazy day in regards to the Philadelphia Eagles. Honestly, just a crazy few weeks, and I feel like it's going to get even crazier with, the potential moves that, all the rumors circling around this franchise and everything that Howie Roseman is most likely going to do to try to improve this team for next season as we get closer and closer to the draft, which is basically next month at this point. The free agency has started today. Like I said, chaos. There's a lot of crazy things happening. And some things that did happen over the weekend, which I was planning to do over the weekend, but then I was like, free agency starts today. I think I should wait to talk about all that stuff, so we could do it like an all-in-one collective thing, I guess. And yeah, basically, so basically just like major news drops over the past couple of days. So we're definitely going to get into a lot of these things here. So it's going to be a very fun time here. Hopefully that is the case as some of you guys creep in here to the live stream. Like I said, we haven't done one of these in a little bit here. So definitely going to get back into the swing of getting used to these things. So yeah, Eagles, Howie Roseman. I'm trying to figure out where we should start just because, like I said, there's like so many things to talk about here. I guess I'll, start with free agency since that is the major news topic of today. And like basically as we're doing this stream, plenty of more things can happen with Howie Roseman. I'm just doing this right now because this is really the only time that I can do it tonight. So yeah, it's 6 p.m. and with daylight savings and all that stuff officially being over, the lights being out, longer. I'm not used to it, so it's a very weird feeling. But that doesn't matter. I'm just rambling at this point. So I guess we can get to the base business here. That is free agency. Then we'll get to some of the other topics. So really, I would say everything started. I would say like right a little bit before. I would say free agency officially opened up because you get a period when the GMs can start talking to free agents and start, discussing contracts and all that stuff. And then I believe it was like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock is when free agency officially opens. So it was like one of those things, and this was before, I believe, the entire, discussion period started. So this was like right around this morning, like right just past 11 a.m. So Eagles, they get Landon Dickerson locked up, especially now that you don't have Jason Kelce for next year. He is officially retired. He is not coming back, even though with all these Eagles moves, a lot of people are now joking about, maybe Jason Kelce tries to come back for one more year, even though that's most not likely happening. He just went through all of this stuff. I doubt he's going to make the decision to come back, but that would be totally a Jason Kelce thing to completely just say, psych, I'm coming back. But like I said, I don't expect that to happen. So this is from Ian Rappaport. So this is from 11:15 a.m. The Eagles and Pro Bowl guard Landon Dickerson have agreed to terms on a 4-year extension worth $84 million base, $87 million max value, source said. He gets a $50 million total guaranteed and a $20 million signing bonus, the highest paid guard in NFL history at $21 million per year. Had to get him locked up, like I said, with a lot of this, old leadership regime leaving, because we will get into the Fletcher Cox retirement, basically after all this free agency stuff. You're losing some big, names and big faces in that locker room, and really part of the old core that's really just left there is Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson. So you're going to need some of these young guys that are, a part of this new core, that are a part of this new regime, basically, of younger Eagles that are trying to bring us into the future and bring us into future success. Landon Dickerson is 100% a part of that. And I'm sure he's going to be still playing the guard position. I don't know who specifically is going to replace Jason Kelce. Who knows? Maybe Landon Dickerson does replace Jason Kelce and he goes into his natural position in the center position, or that eventually becomes Cam Jurgens because that's the person that Jason Kelce single-handedly picked, in the draft a couple of years ago to be his replacement. So we still have to wait for all that stuff. But Landon Dickerson, he's a beast. That's basically all it is. Yeah, there's still some situations where he does deal with injuries. I guess that's just, the factor of being a guard. And he's been basically dealing with injury stuff throughout his entire career, even go back to college. So still, when he is on the field, he is one of the best guards in the game. he is a dynamic force with that offensive line when you added him in with Jordan Mailata, with Lane Johnson, with Jason Kelce, and all that stuff. So Landon Dickerson is a major piece for this team's future, and it is very important that you got him locked up, and that's a really good thing that Howie Roseman did that today. And there's definitely some other, key pieces that Howie Roseman does need to get locked up, especially some of the young guys. Specifically at Devontae Smith, I would expect that to happen sometime soon, just because there's so much other things that Howie has to deal with. I'm not sure, down the list of where Devontae Smith being extended is, but I'm sure that's one of Howie Roseman's main goals, is to get, his young stud wide receiver locked up for long term and to be with his team for the foreseeable future. So like I said, it's a very good thing that he got, a guy like a Landon Dickerson locked up, because that is the most important thing right there, especially, with the losing of Jason Kelce. Even though I still believe, this offensive line is going to be very good, even without Jason Kelce, because, Jeff Statland and all that stuff, there's no way this offensive line is not going to be mediocre and all that stuff. It's still going to be a very good offensive line in the National Football League. It might take a little bit of a hit just because you don't have Jason Kelce, but I still believe it's going to be a damn good offensive line. And whatever Howie Roseman does this year with the draft, I'm sure at some point in this draft, he's going to draft some type of offensive lineman to put in there in Stoutland University. So I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if that's the case. But, really good stuff there, getting Landon Dickerson back. And then really just as the past couple of days have been going leading into this free agency, there's been a lot of rumors circling around the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. And just face value, when you listen to all those rumors, and I know the rumors, come to fruition, and Saquon Barkley is officially a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, that was shocking. It's also exciting at the same time. But like I said, when you go to face value with, seeing a bunch of these rumors, the Eagles might be going heavily after Saquon Barkley, and they obviously did. But when you see those rumors, it's just like you're thinking to yourself, like, can I believe, this is actually true? Because this is not Howie Roseman's MO. This is not, typical Howie Roseman, his philosophy and all that stuff, built within the trenches and all that. He doesn't go big after running backs, especially in free agency, especially given those guys big paydays. And we've seen with the way that the Eagles have used the running back room over the past so many seasons, cheap, 1-year contracts, prove-it-year deals and all of that stuff, when you always have a Boston Scott, when you have a Kenneth Gainwell and all that and everything there. You really don't see this out of a Howie Roseman, and Howie Roseman made a bold decision, obviously, to go after and get a guy like a Saquon Barkley to really solidify that running back position and be a 3-down running back to, give yourself another dynamic offensive weapon. Like I said, this was something completely out of left field in my honest opinion. I did not expect Howie Roseman to go in this type of direction, but maybe Howie Roseman is trying to prove, a little bit things here. He really wants to try to improve this team and everything there. I was also originally, when I saw the rumors, I was originally skeptical about bringing in Saquon. I'm not denying about bringing in elite talent, because Saquon Barkley is an elite talent in this league. He's one of the best running backs in the league. Don't get me wrong there. I'm just thinking to myself, when you have other positions of need that you need to address, I felt like running back was probably the least, the lowest thing on the list that you need to address going into next season. Yeah, there was the whole DeAndre Swift stuff, and basically what was he going to do in free agency? He ended up signing with the Chicago Bears on a 3-year deal. So there definitely were some talks between DeAndre Swift and the Eagles, but basically right at the hour of free agency starting, he signs with Chicago, and the Eagles went into a different direction. And yeah, honestly, they did get the better running back at a more, higher value. But at the end of the day, yeah, Saquon Barkley 100% is the better back than DeAndre Swift. There is no argument there. But like I said, with other needs to be addressed in positions, specifically on the defensive side, and I still do think Howie is going to address all that stuff, whether it's making more free agent signings, whether that's in the draft or even in the trade market. I'm still fully 100% sure that Howie Roseman is going to address all that stuff. So it's just, like I said, I was skeptical about it at first, but I'm still very excited to bring in a Saquon Barkley. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, so we go to the, the breaking news from all that stuff, even though it's not even breaking news anymore. This happened a couple of hours ago. So this is I'm reading the report from Adam Schefter. So former Giants running back Saquon Barkley has reached an agreement with the Philadelphia Eagles on a 3-year deal worth $37.75 million that could be worth up to $46.75 million and includes a $26 million fully guaranteed at signing. Per sources, Barkley now beats the franchise tag number and has a maximum average per year salary of $15.833 million, which would be the second highest for a running back in NFL history. In terms of other running backs that are higher paid, of course, Christian McCaffrey's. I believe on the list of like annual value for a quarterback for a running back, I believe Saquon's like fourth on that list between like Christian McCaffrey and all that stuff. I forget who the other running backs were on there, but he definitely was fourth on that list. I don't remember the list off the top of my head, but I do know like Christian McCaffrey was the top one there, obviously because Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the National Football League. That's obvious there. But like now that you add Saquon to this list, and I know there's definitely people skeptical about this for other reasons, specifically because of injury proneness with Saquon Barkley, but I want to think to myself, when Saquon Barkley with the New York Giants, he played behind a terrible offensive line for years. Terrible, terrible offensive line, not the best blocking, and he still put up fantastic numbers. Fantastic numbers. Like seriously, if you go to where was it at? So if you go to I know last season with the way the Giants were and how everything fell apart for them, like, this is basically going off of his 2022 stats where the Giants looked like they were, having a promising future there. But this is the stats from Saquon Barkley from 2022, and this was still behind a terrible offensive line for the New York Giants. So he was, in 2022, I'm reading this off of the Philly Nation Twitter, he was no doubt a top 5 running back in the league in 2022. This was including the playoffs, all of these stats. He was 4th in rushing yards with 1,426. He was 5th in touchdowns with 12. He was 6th in yards after contact, 862. He was 5th in the league in 10-plus yard runs with 35 of those. He was 2nd in the league in 15-plus yard runs with 21. He was 1st in breakaway yards of 532 yards. 6th in first downs picked up with 66 first downs picked up. 7th in receiving yards with 415, and he was 6th in pass blocking for running backs. So you basically got a guy in Saquon Barkley that could do a lot, that checks off all the boxes that you need for a running back. He obviously, fantastic runner. He could break tackles. He could be very explosive on the field. He could be a pass attack guy. He obviously has the ability to do that, and he can also block for you. Which is definitely something that the Eagles lacked from the running back core for a few years now. And I did see something on Twitter. I forget what person posted this, but they were also mentioning about how the Eagles maybe valued Saquon more just because they haven't had a true, running back that can do all three things basically since LaShawn McCoy. Because, like I said, realistically, the last time the Eagles really had a true, full, I guess you could say franchise running back, I guess you could put that term in front of there, was basically LaShawn McCoy until the whole Chip Kelly nonsense happened. Like, he was a triple threat everywhere in the rushing, in the receiving yards, and he also blocked for you. He was a triple threat weapon there, and now that you have that with Saquon Barkley, it adds another factor to this offense that could be dynamic, and especially when you're putting Saquon Barkley, when he was doing that in like a bottom 15, bottom 12 offensive line with the New York Giants, think about this. He's going to be among one of the best offensive lines in football. Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts, and then you get Jeff Statland. You have one of the best, offenses in football, on paper-wise. We all know what happened last year in the way that it looked. Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni, blah, blah, yada, 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 yada. This is Kellen Moore's offense now. I expect it to be drastically different. I expect it to be drastically better than it was last year. 100%. And who knows, this could definitely be a request out of Kellen Moore. I want an actual running back for our offense. So go out there and get me a guy like a Saquon Barkley. Go out there and get me a guy like a Josh Jacobs or something like that. Go out and get me one of these guys, and we can work with something here. And Saquon Barkley is probably surrounded by the most talent that he's ever seen in his entire NFL career so far. And I do think this could bode well from the Eagles just from a pure offensive standpoint, just because you add another weapon along with A.J. Brown, along with Devontae Smith, along with Dallas Goedert, along with Jalen Hurts. There's just so many options there for your offense. And if Kellen Moore can find a way to mesh his vision into what this Eagles offense can be for next year and figures out a way to properly utilize your wide receivers, properly utilize Dallas Goedert, get Jalen Hurts to get his full abilities out there, and you also add Saquon Barkley to that mix, you can have one of the best offenses in football if everything goes right. And yes, this does come down to injury proneness with Saquon Barkley, but I do think the past couple of seasons he has been less injury prone than, with torn ACL and all that crap. I believe he's played at least 13, 14 games in 3 out of the past 4 seasons. So I believe he's getting, healthier as the seasons go along. And he's still very young. I believe he's like, 26, 27 years old. So that really meshes with what Howie Roseman is trying to build with his Eagles squad as well. So it definitely was a great pickup for the offensive side. And then when you look at the defensive side for everything there along with the Eagles, and that's one of the main things that Howie Roseman is trying to address right now, is especially when you go back to the draft combine and all that stuff, he really put emphasis on wanting younger players to take a bigger step, wanting to focus on younger players, getting those bigger roles like, a Nolan Smith, like a Nakobe Dean, having some of these other younger guys take some, bigger steps into the defensive side, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and all that stuff. So he put a lot of heavy emphasis there. And, this also, I guess, kind of circles around with the trade rumors that are going around with, Josh Sweat and Haason Reddick. Because, even before the trade deadline, we're getting these rumors that the Eagles are taking calls on both of those guys. And that came up as a shocker to me because, Haason Reddick is one of the best, defensive ends in football. Josh Sweat, even though last season, especially in the latter half when basically the entire Eagles season collapsed and all that stuff, he really went quiet. Josh Sweat did. And Haason Reddick did too, but that was no fault of Haason Reddick. Freaking the Eagles defensive, everything. They just tried to use him as a defender against the pass, and they tried to drop him back into coverage, which I have no idea why you're trying to do that with Haason Reddick at all. That just makes no sense in the world. And now that you have, Vic Fangio, a very experienced veteran coach in there, veteran influence, has been around the game a long time. He can bring stability and all that stuff for your defense. Definitely will be a much better, you know, defensive caller than anything the Eagles had last season. My God, it was just brutal. It was just terrible. And I can't wait for it to get better. It can only get up from here. It can definitely only get up from here. And then, coincided with all this, Sweat stuff with this Reddick rumors and everything there was, many rumors about the Eagles possibly going after a guy from the Jets like Bryce Huff. And that's what happened today. So this is from Adam Schefter's report. So Jets free agent defensive end Bryce Huff is signing a 3-year, $51.1 million deal with the Philadelphia Eagles once free agency opens. The deal will make Huff the highest paid non-QB undrafted free agent in NFL history per sources. And if we go to some of his stats from Bryce Huff last year, he put up some good numbers in limited usage with the Jets. He's still very young. I believe he's 25, 26 years old. So that definitely, like I said, also fits the MO what Howie Roseman is trying to do with, getting more younger, especially on the defensive side. So last year, Bryce Huff, 67 pressures on only 344 pass rush snaps. He had an 86.8 pass rusher grade, highest on the Jets. 22.9 pass rush win percentage, best in the NFL, 10 sacks, 21 quarterback hits, and he's only 25 years old. And there's a lot of people that believe this is a great signing by Howie Roseman, especially, Chris Long and all that stuff. There's definitely, of course, all the other people that want to say, oh, he's only a run stopper, blah, 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 blah. He can only do this. He can only play a certain amount of downs, blah, 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 blah. He's still very young in this league. He's shown a lot of promise, especially with that Jets defense. And that Jets defense is very good. And if you're able to shine in that Jets defense, especially with the limited uses that he did get, there's definitely some promise there. And I believe if you can find a way to get him into the system, get Vic Fangio working under him, and find a way to get him, to the usage that his potential could be, this is a really, really great signing by Howie Roseman in the Philadelphia Eagles. But what does this mean for, like a guy like a Haason Reddick or a guy like a Josh Sweat? The way I see it, I think one stays, obviously one goes. And personally, what I think, especially, with just looking at everything with, Howie Roseman and the way that he's stressing young youth, all that stuff, like Haason Reddick, I believe he's 29 pushing 30, and Josh Sweat, he's 26, I believe. So Josh Sweat, obviously more on the younger side, has been working with, has been drafted by the Eagles, built up by this Eagles franchise, organization, and everything there. Does it make more sense to keep a Josh Sweat who's younger and he fits the mold of what you want to try to build, especially on the younger side of the football? Or do you go with, the experienced veteran, a guy that can dominate the league and get 10 plus sacks a season with Haason Reddick with the way that he has been playing football recently? Or do you trade him? That's the biggest question mark there. I do believe if it just with the way that the pattern's going, I believe Josh Sweat stays. I believe Haason Reddick goes. That's the way I think about it. But right now, Howie Roseman is listening on calls for both of those guys, and we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. There was also some other reports that what the Eagles were in on. They're also in on safeties, so we're gonna have to wait and see what happens there. And I'm trying to see what else happens here. I'm trying to see. Let's see. Let's go to Adam Schefter because I'm not sure because I have a chat going on right here with my Discord chat that I'm in right here, and I'm trying to see what happens here. So there's also the Eagles just made another signing. The Eagles, they signed free agent linebacker Zach Bond. Plans to sign a 1-year deal with the Eagles per sources. Bond's 6'3", 225-pound, was a former third-round draft pick from Wisconsin in 2020. Primarily a special teams player, Braun is best at it as a 3 to 4 linebacker where he can use his explosiveness to attack the quarterback on passing downs. In 2023, he had 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 4 quarterback hits. Interesting. Definitely not a guy that I can that we don't know of. Apparently he's young, so maybe that fits the mold of what Howie Roseman is trying to do again. But I'm not going to grade that yet. I'm definitely not going to grade that yet. That is interesting there. Definitely an interesting signing right there from one Howie Roseman. Like I said, I don't know if anything to grade that right there, but we'll see. We'll definitely see. So the Eagles, they get their linebacker. So like I said, doing everything here, and most people are saying that this is a special team signing. Eagles need a depth. So it's definitely not a major signing. Definitely not a major signing whatsoever. It's a 1-year deal. Tyrone Johnson from 97.5 saying it's most likely a special team signing. That side of the football needs depth. So there's nothing really gigantic with that situation. But, going back to other positions that the Eagles need right now, there was a lot of talks about Xavier McKinney possibly coming over with Saquon Barkley. If the Eagles signed him, they would go after McKinney as well. Sadly, they did lose McKinney to the Green Bay Packers. The Eagles did put an offer in there, but he chose Green Bay at the end of the day. And there's definitely still some safeties out there. CJ Gardner-Johnson's out there. So there's definitely some other guys that, Howie Roseman could go after. Would it be a CJ Gardner-Johnson reunion? I would definitely, take the option there. He's still very young, even though, the injuries are a major concern, and you still have to wonder about, the way that he left Philadelphia and all that stuff, with the way that he did complain about the Philadelphia fans. Would Howie Roseman be willing to bring him back here? There's still some major question marks regarding that relationship, but CJ Gardner-Johnson definitely is a talent that you can have for that safety position, something that the Eagles desperately lacked last season, and it gets you younger there. So there's a lot of things that you could do. I'm a little disappointed that they couldn't have gotten McKinney, because that would have been a very huge signing, especially for the safety position. You got a young position there, very explosive talent, and just a great pickup for your organization. Sadly, that wasn't the case, and now Howie Roseman has to pivot in another direction. But I do believe he's still going to find a way to go heavy into that situation, into getting a safety. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Just looking at some other, notes right here. This is from Ruben Frank. Eagles have signed Saints free agent linebacker Zach Bond. Started at a career high 6 games last year and had an interception, 2 pass knockdowns, 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 4 tackles for loss, and 30 tackles last year, and his most extensive playing time, 301 snaps. So we'll see how they see how, basically, like I said, it's probably more of a special teams type of addition than anything. That's probably what it is. Basically right here, this is from Catherine Terrell. Saints never seem to know what to do with him, who carved out a role for himself on special teams. And defensively, they never committed to using him as a rusher, where he had some success last season. So who knows? Maybe Vic Fangio can find a way to utilize him better. Maybe that could be a thing too. Maybe he could be a diamond in the rough. Maybe you try him at linebacker in the preseason and training camp and see how he on the defensive side and not just special teams. You put him on some defensive snaps and see how he goes in, training camp and, the preseason games and see how it works there. That could be definitely something of peak of interest. But hopefully Howie Roseman can find some more things with that position, because I still believe it's a little lackluster, especially the safety position too. So we're just going to wait and see. And then also, basically away from free agency, because I'm not sure what more signings are going to be happening. But yeah, it's Fletcher Cox retirement definitely came out of left field. I still believe that he had a lot more football left in him, but congratulations to him on his retirement, on his career, and everything like that. It's definitely gonna be weird. It's really going to be weird, not seeing Jason Kelce, not seeing Fletcher Cox in an Eagles uniform next season, because basically watching football, those are the guys that I've known on the Eagles for a lot of my life. And basically, really when you start understanding the sport and everything like that, and not when you're a little kid, when you get into that teenage year and all that stuff, when you really start, understanding everything and getting into the sports and all that stuff, that's basically my life of Eagles football, with, Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham, and all that stuff. That was a lot of, and those guys were here for a long, long time, and they were the face of leadership for a long, long time. And that is two huge leaders that are gone from your organization. Jason Kelce was probably one of the biggest leaders in that locker room, Fletcher Cox, and also one of the bigger leaders in the locker room. And those guys put a lot of praise for Nick Sirianni. And right now, basically left of that core four is Lane Johnson and Brandon Graham, and this is going to be Brandon Graham's last year. So basically after next season, that's going to be only one person left, and that's Lane Johnson. So we're going to need a lot of people to step up in that locker room. A lot. That's Jalen Hurts. That's, maybe one of the guys from the offensive line. Maybe that could be a Landon Dickerson. But, A.J. Brown has to step up and be a better leader. Darius Slay, especially, not going on his goddamn Twitter page, not going on his goddamn podcast, and going to Pro Football Focus and saying that, oh, I did this well, so it's not my fault that we lost the game. You can't be doing that, because it's not a good sign for the locker room. It's not a good message that you're just looking at your stats and comparing it to how the rest of the team did. It's not the way it goes. Those guys got to learn. And I do definitely think from Jason Kelce's retirement press conference, I think he was, trying to poke the bear a little bit in that press conference, especially bringing up the Philadelphia fans and all that stuff. Definitely very interesting there. Definitely very interesting on that front. Like I said, it's going to be very weird not seeing seeing Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox. It's going to be very weird. Know those guys for so long in that Eagles uniform, in that midnight green. It's going to be weird, man. It's going to be very weird. But this is the next era of Eagles football, I guess, and this is the time for Jalen Hurts to step up. We've all seen the reports that he's not a bad leader, but he needs to improve on his leadership. Maybe this is the chance for him to do that. With, a lot of the veterans gone, maybe this is the chance for him to step up and for players in that locker room to look up to Jalen Hurts. He definitely is more of a lead by example type of guy, not a very vocal guy in that locker room, probably. Lead by example, go to the film room, show yourself how you prep and all that stuff, game-to-day basics, how you prepare yourself every single day. Got to find a way to guys to look up to that. And that's what Jalen Hurts needs to learn to do. 100%. So that's going to be interesting, without a doubt. Like I said, there's 100% going to be way more signings. I firmly believe by Howie Roseman, he's definitely going after the safety market. I would assume hard, especially after he was not able to get Xavier McKinney. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens on that front. And there's definitely a lot more, bigger deals that have been going on throughout the day. You saw, one of the shockers that, who else? I think Kirk Cousins, he went to the Atlanta Falcons. Who else? Why am I blanking on names right now? There's definitely a lot more signings. I got to find NFL free agent tracker. The free agent tracker. Because right now I'm just blanking on names. I don't know why. Here we go. Free agency tracker. And let me go to Pro Football Focus. Let's see. Yep, Kirk Cousins, he went to the Atlanta Falcons. Baker Mayfield, he re-signed with Tampa Bay. Russell Wilson, he signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Gardner Minshew, he signed with the Raiders. Obviously, Saquon Barkley with the Eagles. Josh Jacobs went to Green Bay. Tony Pollard, he went to Tennessee, so that's a loss for the Dallas Cowboys, so we'll see how they try to replace that. Even Dan Quinn, he poked some people from the Dallas Cowboys roster at the same time, so we'll see what happens there. DeAndre Swift, he signed with Chicago. Who else? T. Higgins, he was franchise tagged, but he also requested a trade out of Cincinnati, so we'll eventually see what happens there. Michael Pittman re-signed with Indianapolis. Mike Evans re-signed with Tampa Bay. What else? Dalton Schultz, he re-signed with Houston. Hunter Henry re-signed with New England. Offensive tackles, nothing really major on that front. Centers, nothing really major on that front. Yeah. Chris Jones, he re-signed with the Chiefs on a really big, lucrative contract, so he definitely earned that. What else? There's definitely a lot of, more rumors, around Justin Fields and all that stuff, because there was a lot of rumors circling around him and the Atlanta Falcons. Now that Kirk Cousins signed there's a lot of question marks surrounding, Justin Fields. So we're going to have to wait and see. And what do the Vikings do with their quarterback situation now that Cousins is gone? We'll see where they try to go. We'll see. Yeah. Let's see. I think we're getting closer towards the end of this stream, so let's get a voicemail in here. We do have one on the Anytime hotline. And if you want to leave any voicemails or anything like that, you can leave those at 215-839-9885. Your thoughts and opinions on anything Philadelphia sports related. So let's get to the Anytime hotline here. Let's get to Sean. Let's see what he has to say about the start to Eagles free agency and all the other news surrounding this Eagles squad.
And a happy free agency frenzy Monday to you, Amadeo. So let me just go over what happened today. My thoughts. I'll start off with Landon Dickerson. I think that was an important move for the Eagles.
100%.
A lot of turnover on the right-hand side of the line. You have to keep the young guys on the left-hand side together. Dickerson has earned the money. He gets it. Now moving on to free agents. Again, I always look at free agency as a let the buyer beware market. I don't know much about Huff, but the Eagles obviously had interest in him, and I'm sure that Vic Fangio had a lot of input in it. I have no issue with this move. See what the counter move is going to be in terms of Sweat and or Reddick. Now moving on to the big fish in the pond, as it were. Barkley, look, I have no issue with Saquon the player. I am a little leery of the contract. 3 years for the guy who has had injury issues. There is a little bit of concern there for me. I hate Bryce Swift go. No issue with it. If it was a 1-year deal, a 3-year deal, but it's not my money. You know, everybody thought they were getting McKinney. That fell through. So there's still work to be done on the defensive side of the ball, linebacker and safety especially. But no issues with their first day of free agency and what they got done.
Come on, Sean. I expected you to bring up something about Saquon Barkley in the terms of Eagles, because this is something that went through my mind as the Eagles, went through this whole process of signing Saquon Barkley. Like it like popped into my head like after the signing happened. So we all know how DeAndre Swift was utilized last year and the way that it got into the red zone and all that stuff, right? So listen out on me and hear where I'm going at. So Eagles got an offensive drive here. Saquon Barkley is a huge part of this drive. Helps take the Eagles like 90, 95 yards down, gets down to the 5-yard line. You're right into first and goal and everything like that. And then, boom, substitution made on the field. And it's not Saquon Barkley staying on the field. Here comes Kenneth Gainwell because he is our red down back. He's our red zone back. And it was like, oh, God, we're doing the same shit again. That just made me laugh thinking about that. Like, oh, we're still going to be doing the same shit with fucking Kenneth Gainwell in the red zone. Because for some reason we refused to use DeAndre Swift in the red zone last year. For some reason Kenneth Gainwell was that guy. But I don't expect that to be the case this year. You sign Saquon Barkley to that deal, you're going to be utilizing him as a 3-down back. That's just going to be the case there. So we'll wait and see. That was just something that popped in my mind that I thought was funny. But yeah, definitely a good start to the day one of free agency and some good signings here by Howie Roseman. Definitely a little disappointed that they didn't get McKinney, but I still believe that Howie Roseman's going to do his due diligence and to find some way to get a safety into that room, whether it's CJ Gardner-Johnson or any of these other guys that are on the market. We'll see what happens. Knowing me, I'll end this video and we'll get another signing by the goddamn Howie Roseman. I'll miss out on it. That'll make me mad. That'll make me upset. Like I said, this is really one of the only things that I was able to do at this time. But we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. So I appreciate you guys tuning into this stream, or tuning into this after it's not live later tonight, or whenever you get a chance to tune into this. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. So don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. And also use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the nights. Whenever you decide to.